This video offers rare insight into the internal operations of RuneScape Black Markets. One of the things that I've noticed is that between these communities, there's a varying level of intensity in the legality of the topics being discussed. On the innocent side of things, you have people selling RuneScape gold, training accounts, swapping usernames, whatever. But on the more criminal side, there's topics being discussed like spreading malware, setting up phishing websites, sometimes even topics around credit card fraud and identity theft. So when I was contacted by this person, and when he told me the website he used to own, and then the handful of websites he administrated, I was surprised that he was even willing to talk to me because they all fell mostly more towards the criminal side. Earlier this week, I made a post on the community tab of my YouTube channel asking you guys what questions you wanted to ask him. And that's exactly what I did. We discussed topics about corruption within these communities, how much money they were making, why they're even around to begin with, and a whole other slew of interesting topics that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. If this interests you, consider subscribing. There's plenty more videos planned in the future. Firstly, he asked me to remain anonymous. He didn't want his current alias to be known, so I'm going to call him Vet for the sake of this video. The first thing I wanted to hear from Vet is what his actual involvement is within these black market forums. And he told me that he has 11 years of experience. Throughout that time, he owned his own forum for a short while, but mostly he's just been a community admin, somebody that manages the people that converse back and forth on these forums, enforces the forum policies, and deals with whatever drama arises within those communities. The takeaway from this is that this is a person who's been deeply involved within these communities since they first started cropping up. He's been a staff member, he's been an owner, he's aware of the inner workings, the scandals, the drama, everything that takes place within these black market RuneScape forums. To name a few that he worked with, and these are all old dead ones, there's more, but I'm not going to mention their names because they're still around. Hacking RS, FJ Forum, also known as Fuck Jagex, Scornbot, RS Unlocked, and once again more, but I can't mention them because they still exist. The next thing that I wanted to know is what type of topics are being discussed within these Black Hat RuneScape forums. And he told me that there's boards for everything you can imagine, really, but to give you an idea, there's Black Hat categories that encompass things like hacking, social engineering, people distributing tools that can be used to commit these attacks, tutorials on how to do them. The list goes on, anything that falls within the realm of hacking. Along with that, there's also white hat categories, so ethical hacking where nobody gets hurt, which I found interesting. And along with that, there was sections specific to RuneScape Black Hat that would contain things like tutorials on phishing accounts, hacking people, and then there was also sections for you to brag about your hacks. What account you got into, how much wealth it had, what stats it had. Really, success threads on their illegal doings. To finish it off, there was many topics around sharing RuneScape accounts, buying and selling RuneScape accounts that have been hacked or stolen, of which people would use them to bot on them, or they would go through the list trying to look for any gold left on the accounts, so on and so forth. A few of you were curious about how people actually get access to these forums, and so I asked him specifically about hacking RS, which is a forum that no longer exists. And he told me that for a time, that forum was invite only. You had to know somebody on the inside to be given the privilege of actually joining and exploring the topics that were being discussed. He said that the reason behind making it invite only was actually a marketing ploy. It created a buzz about the forum. People wanted to go on it even more because they weren't allowed to. And then eventually, once the hype died down, they opened up the board to the public and anybody could join and create an account. However, after the forum was made public for anybody to join, they started putting restrictions on certain sections of the forums, and this was to prevent leechers, people that just wanted to join to download the tools and guides and information being posted without actually contributing anything back to the forum, and this is a trick they use to promote growth. So if somebody wanted to gain access to the hacking tools, then they would have to make, say, 100 posts in other sections before they could go into that section. The next thing I wanted to know, was there corruption within these forums? Could you actually trust the people who are running them? And he told me, quote, There was corruption at every single level. It was honestly like the Wild West. I wouldn't trust somebody new as far as I could throw them. He also said that there was certainly exceptions to that. He said that the most common corruption was when staff would turn a blind eye to scamming. Usually this happened when a new member joined the forum, they would buy something, and a perceived, trusted, popular member would scam them, and instead of the staff dealing with it and banning them, causing a whole bunch of drama around that, they would just ignore it and let it slide under the rug. He also told me that the admins going rogue was not uncommon. A little bit of history, throughout Hacking RS's lifespan, there was many owners, and often they changed hands when one of them did a quote exit scam. So they would steal a bunch of people's stuff and then they would pass the ownership over and disappear off the face of the internet. He told me that one of the owners plain texted the website, meaning that he stole all the username and password login details in plain text and then used them in an attempt to log into RuneScape accounts, hoping people use the same credentials. Along with this, he told me that it also wasn't uncommon for the admins to be corrupt, scamming the members. He said that some of them had spent months, if not years, gaining a reputation across multiple forums, and then they threw it all away for the sake of a few $100s. He also told me that they often disappeared off the scene entirely afterwards. Really, the conclusion to that is you can't even trust the people running these blackout forums. So we know what the administrators were like on these communities, but I wanted to hear about the actual members who used and participated in these forums. And so I asked him, and he told me, quote, "I encountered a great deal of truly intelligent and kind individuals within these communities. Sure, there were the types who would ruthlessly hijack accounts without batting an eyelid, and I spoke to these members too, but honestly, the favorite people who I ever encountered were the business-minded people who were often skilled programmers." Okay, so this is an important thing to note. Often on these black markets, you can sell things for real money and other people will buy them. That's what attracts skilled programmers. That's what attracts people that build products to sell on these forums. Often these products are not of innocent nature. They're usually tools to hack other people's computers, or they're guides to hack other people's computers, or they're people selling things like stolen account list for RuneScape. He then went on to say that usually about 98% of the members are there on the forum to utilize the different programs and guides that have been made from that other 2%. And the goal from this 98% was to make a quick buck off hijacking accounts or getting into somebody's computer, whatever illegal activity it may be. He said that really these forums worked like an economic market, supply and demand. If there was enough demand for it, somebody would make it and put it up. I think the next natural question is, how are these websites making money to stay alive? Obviously, the server costs are high for a really big forum. And he told me that typically they ran off donation models. Users would donate money, and in return they would usually get a rank on the forum showing how much money they donated, and even sometimes some special privileges like a fancier looking username, a bigger profile picture, allowing their profile picture to be like a video, and so on and so forth. And one of the reasons why users would do this is because it would make them seem more trusted. Say you donated $50 to the website, why would you scam somebody for $10? He said that the owners of these communities will be making in the hundreds to low thousands of dollars per month, but really it depended on the generosity of the members and, by implication, how successful the members were in hijacking accounts. He went on to say that the botting websites make significantly more, however, and they treat their trade like a legitimate business. And of course they're making more. They're selling things like premium for their bots. They're selling scripts for people to use. The amount that they're making is exponentially more than just these hacking websites. The next curiosity was, does Jagex ever get in contact with these forums or the people on them, and what exactly happens there? He said he often hears of phishers receiving cease and desist letters from Jagex lawyers, but they never end up taking any further actions. He also said that Jagex has contacted hosting providers in the past of these illicit forums, and occasionally, depending on the hosting provider, they'll actually terminate that hosting account, meaning that the website goes offline, and until the website owner finds a new hosting provider, the website won't come back online. He also told me that it's well known that Jagex moderators browse these forums undercover looking like they're a normal user to keep tabs on what exactly is happening within these communities. He also told me that if a large number of accounts are being hacked and they're linked to a certain phishing website, Jagex will actually go after that domain, trying to get ownership of it to prevent that hacker from using that domain anymore. And so one of the things that these webmasters are doing nowadays to try to keep their forums safe from legal pursuit is they don't use any Jagex trademarks in their domain names, and they host their websites on what are known as, quote, bulletproof servers. And these are servers where the website hosting providers don't really care what activity you do on them. Typically, they're located in countries like Russia or other countries that have lax internet laws. So if Jagex contacts that hosting provider, they're not legally obligated to terminate that hosting whatsoever. One of the final questions that you kind gents had for him was, does he ever feel running and helping these forums is immoral, and how does he justify it? He said yes and no. He then went on to tell me that he thought it was particularly easy for members of the forums in those days to not really recognize the severity of what they were doing, whether it be phishing, password cracking, or whatever, in terms of the real-world crimes they were committing, because the game itself abstracted the harsh reality of the crime. And the reality is the crime they were committing is theft and misuse of computers. He said he thought a lot of individuals would never dream of committing these crimes in real life, but because they perceived it as being online, therefore not real, it makes it okay. He said that he doesn't believe it was immoral on his part because he was simply providing a platform of which RuneScape players could discuss gameplay. Whether they strayed into the illicit/illegal isn't the fault of him, the website provider. He said it's like saying Facebook is responsible for drug trades that happen on their website. I'm not going to make a stance because I'm being objective about this, but these RuneScape Black Market Forums are tailored towards people that want to commit abuse within the RuneScape community. That's how they're advertised. Those are the people that they're trying to attract, and those are the forum sections that are made. The forums are actually designed around these illegal activities. And then he went on to justify it more. He said that for himself, he viewed it as an educational project into computer security and website development, and he had stopped actively playing the game for many years before running the forum. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Anyways guys, that concludes the video. Thank you so much for watching. Coming up on 18,000 subscribers, that blows my mind. Plenty more videos planned if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, love, peace, and chicken grease.